mean, for me personally, I don't know how privy you guys were to it, but there was a blood clot discovered in his lung. This was at the end of June, and he'll also be on the non-football injury list. And this is a non-football injury that's definitely fairly serious for, not even want to say fairly, I don't want to undersell it, pretty serious, just from a human perspective, because I'm not a doctor, so I'm going to go ahead and put that out there. But what I understand is, in terms of clots, the proximity to the heart, the more severe it can be, because we hear about clots in legs at times. If you have surgery, if you've ever had surgery, you've been bedridden, you have to kind of keep maybe some orthopedic socks or whatever just to keep the circulation going. But for this one, this is a little bit nerve-wracking, again, I guess, for me, just because as a human, you just don't know how the body's going to react to these type of treatments. And when you're going on blood thinners, things can happen. It's particularly just in life, but let alone when you're banging your head against 300-pound offensive linemen, 60, 75 snaps a game. So when you heard this news, Sheena, what was the first thing that kind of stuck out for you?
Like you said, just the seriousness of it. A blood clot is serious anywhere, but especially in the lung, like you said, close to the heart. So the first thing I was thinking was, I hope he's going to be okay.
Yeah.
Beyond football, I hope he's going to be okay. And the second thing I was thinking is that Braden Christensen signing, is already looking really, really smart. As well as the Monroe Freeling draft. I didn't have them drafting Monroe at 19. I don't think anybody really thinks about that, but when you thought about it and gave a little bit of credence to it, it makes sense. It made sense. The Panthers came in with, they had retained the entire offensive line last season. So that was kind of the strongest, most stable unit. So arguably going into last season, and then they end up playing over a dozen different combinations. So for whatever reason, the Panthers offensive line, you have to be able to play everything. You have to have some utility players, because no matter what, something's going to happen to someone along that line. That's just kind of, I don't know who has the brujeria or the voodoo doll when it comes to the Panthers offensive line, but it's always something. So just good insulation there with the picks that they picked up and, re-signing Brady Christensen. But on the other hand, really, and it sucks for Taylor Moton, because he was like Iron Man. I mean, that was literally what people called him a couple seasons ago because of his durability. He was always available. He went a certain number of years. Joe, you can, humor me on that without missing any games. A certain amount of seasons without missing any.
No. They drafted him in the second round in 2017. The first year, of course, that was their last playoff year for the longest time. And he plays on field goal protection. It's like, the tight end. And then he would play as the third eligible tackle. And so beginning that year, as Sheena indicated, he played like the next 7 years without missing a snap. Without missing a game. 120 games, 104 starts. He's still the longest streak for a position player. The only two guys ahead of him, J.J. Jansen and J.J. Jansen's predecessor, the long snapper before him, Jason Kyle. So anyway, you're right. He was the picture of just rock. And you penciled him in every week. Hell, you put it in pen that he was going to be the right tackle. So, but I'm glad Dunk addressed this, and both of y'all did, that there's a lot of football stuff to discuss in the fallout for this. And let's get to that. But we do need to sit and say that this is serious. It can be life-threatening if it's not caught, early enough. And you only have to go back to DJ Wanham, his clot was in his arm. I went back and was reading some about this today, and he had a bunch of other stuff. He had MRSA and all that stuff stemming from the quad surgery right at the end of his Vikings tenure. But I'm glad that the reports are, and everything I've been told is Taylor Moton's trending in a good direction.
And Joe, so I mean, obviously you talked to people with this. We just not even long ago, Taylor Moton didn't have a contract extension. People were fans. I don't know. Media was even pushing retirement or at times, and his future was just uncertain. How does an injury like this? Do you get a read that this could affect his status in terms of is he going to play again? Is he going to risk it? Because I can't remember the name of the lineman he was a center from the Chiefs. I tried to look up people that had ones in their lungs.
Frank Ragnar. What you talking about, Frank Ragnar?
No, it was I can't
yeah.
remember it. I can't remember his name. I had it written down somewhere, but he retired. He hung it up. There were a couple. He had one in his lung, and he just didn't want to risk it. I mean, is that something that Taylor you think would consider? Is he just going to kind of play through it? Because there have been other players that have faced this. I think Chris Olave had one. They found it in week 16 of last year. Obviously, he missed the final 2 weeks. The offseason, there's no sense of urgency. He had plenty of time to get corrected, but this is a little bit of a different circumstance. So do you think is something that either retirement is something this could push him towards retirement, or is it that serious, or is it something that he's going to kind of push through?
I have not gotten that indication.
Okay.
Everything I've been told is that he is, doing the rehab, and a lot of that probably the first month or two is, rest. I mean, I don't think there's much rehabbing you're doing, but they get that under control. And, Dunk referenced this. You can't do a whole lot on blood thinners, because if you fall or, a dumbbell brush, you really risk some bleeding issues on those thinners. So no, I think he's going to be back. The only thing I get.
What a freeze frame, Joe.
Shrugging the shoulders, but
someone's going to screenshot that, and I can't wait to send it to Joe.
Oh, he's back. He's back.
Sorry about that.
Now
Go ahead, Sheena.
Oh no, I was just kind of laughing, poking fun at your freeze frame there when you froze. But
but we're good. We're like somebody mentioned Trey Smith from the I guess he may still be the highest paid guard in NFL history still for the Chiefs. And I was doing some research on him, his time in Tennessee. He had one in his lung as well. He talked about that the first sign was he could struggle to walk the class. And he was like, okay, I'm in pretty good shape, but I can't walk the class across campus without being out of breath or winded. And so once they found out, I think he missed half their season in 2018. He only had 2 contact practices in 2019 because, like Joe said, any kind of trauma to you, whether it's a concussion or any type of injury, can be could be fatal, So it's just something that's very, very sensitive to how they'll have to play this. Is a different type of injury. And so best wishes for Timo to get healthy. But the football side of it, let's talk about their plan. And Sheena, you kind of alluded to it.